I had a Catholic priest who's head of a seminary, and he had a huge staff. One of my exercises is go have a respect conversation with all your direct reports.
Respect.
What does respect look like to you? How do you know when you're being respected? How do you know when you're being disrespected?
Phil for you.
And you both talk about it, but it's the most awkward conversation because people think about it, but they've never done it. And even a priest, the priest called me, he goes, Greg, he goes, I'm a priest. He said, this should be easy. He said, this was one of the hardest exercises I've ever done.
Respect.
I said, because you've never done it. How many, I ask people all the time, have you really sat down with your spouse and said, how do you define respect? How do you know when you're being disrespected? And how do you know when you're being respected?
What are the nonverbal and verbal signals of respect?
Yeah.
It reminds me when you're talking about that, I did this communication framework thing at a job. And ironically enough, it was from the Scientology guy. What's his name?
Can't think of it.
We'll come up with it. But the guy from Scientology, the main guy, he had this whole. He had this whole framework on communication, and the one thing that he said you would bring into any interaction with another human being, and you would stoke it before you even got there into the conversation. You would build it, and it was what he called affinity.
Okay.
And when you're talking about respect, I think kind of it's the same thing, because if it's there, affinity, which is like, how do you have good, positive feelings? Right. We call them vibes. I think this might go into the spiritual woo-woo with you, which is cool for me.
Oh, absolutely. Me too.
I tiptoe in that area.
I'll dive into it. I don't care.
And it really means there's nonverbal cues of acceptance and happiness in relationship to somebody. And that might not be exactly respect, but I think it's adjacent to respect, right?
Well, it's energy. It's the energy that's exchanged at that moment when respect is present or not. I think it's energetically you walk in. Sometimes, for instance, one of my exercises with my group was to see how everything's working for you and how to see other people as your ally, even people you don't like.
Heck yeah.
And it was interesting. He said, I went to this event and this one guy goes, I haven't been able to stand him for several years because he's all about himself. And he had this really interesting car he brought, but he wanted to show it off. And he said, I looked at it and he said, I thought, I'm going to look at how he's my ally right now. And he said, so I started looking at his car. And he said, I looked at all this cool stuff, started complimenting on it. He said he just saw this guy start to transform in front of him.
Yeah.
And after about 20 minutes, he got out of his car after looking at it and talking to him about it. The guy goes, I didn't think you were going to like anything. I wasn't expecting anything about this from you today. And he said they sat around and drank beers for 4 hours and talked. He said, I humanized the guy. And he said, I saw how my intention changed everything. But he said, I also saw how my intention had everything locked in.
Yes. Openness, curiosity, exploring someone's world.
Yeah. But how he wasn't that way before. And he said, I was the one creating the resistance that I was experiencing.
Absolutely.
Right.
The energy you're bringing, the way you're interacting communicates something.
Absolutely.
There's nonverbal and verbal communication. There's like subtleties in even the type of words that you're using and the way that you're talking.
Right.
I think about, I like frameworks. I think you probably do too, because you read a lot of books.
Yeah.
And I love 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
That was my first book that got me started in everything, and I got to work with some of the guys who actually designed the first set. Well, the authors with Crucial Conversations, some of those guys actually designed the first 7 Habits with Stephen Covey.
Really?
They were all up in Provo. Most of those guys were in OD for Brigham Young University.
Okay.
And that's where
Mormons. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. And
I think it's phenomenal.
Oh,
framework.
It's great.
And
it's
even
great.
his son, The Speed of Trust. I did the Speed of Trust stuff
Stephen
too.
M.R. Covey. Yeah. And I actually there's a woman. Last name's Lenchenko. Can't think of her first name right now. She just wrote a book called I Meant Well. It is awesome. But she was Stephen Covey's executive assistant for while he was doing all that.
Wow.
And
then
she's
she
written
developed something?
She's written this book, and she is an amazing interview too. She lives up in Utah, but if you ever get a chance to interview her, you'd love her. Her book is one of the best books. It's really thick. It's really intense, but she gives so many examples. It's called I Meant Well. Her last name is Lenchenko.
Well, the reason I bring it up is seek first to understand
Then to be
and then to be understood.
Right.
And I think that's what he brings, the energy he brings into that relationship with the guy with the fancy car. Because I would imagine if he drilled down into his thoughts,
Right.
feelings, there's like shadows around like money. Or, oh, this guy has more money than me. I wish I had more money.
Right.
Worth, value. Then you just have all these shadows.
Comparison,
whispering at you,
yeah.
Comparing.
Yeah.
Whereas you like, I just want to understand this guy.
Right.
Why'd you like this car? What do you think's cool about
Yeah.
it? Like, show me some stuff.
Yeah.
And then people want to show and tell.
Absolutely.
People love show and tell.
Well, you loved it when you were a kid. You love it as an adult.
We're all just
Yeah,
kids
I know.
with like fancy clothes
Yeah.
on and cars.
Like Mel Robbins said, we're all 8-year-olds.
Yeah. So going into these relationships with a curiosity, open mind, we're talking about respect. Oh, one thing, I remembered his name. I'll give you one more second to remember it before I tell you it.
It starts with an H. It's go ahead.
L. Ron
Hubbard.
Hubbard.
There it is. I knew it was.
L. Ron Hubbard.
I was trying to figure out I knew it was there.
All
So,
you L. Ron Hubbard fans out there, we remember him.
That's right. That's right.
How do you define respect?
I would define respect as give me the benefit of the doubt. And if I don't deserve that, pull me aside and let me know why. And show me my blind spot, because it's not my intent to do anything that would be disrespectful. So let me know what that is. It's a blind spot for
Yep.
me, but please help me out if you don't just think I deserve that.
Yeah.
And so because if you knew my intent, you would know that it's not that. Now, that's another thing. Intent can change like that. If I'm going along, I have the best intent in the world, Phil, and you come and say, you're a low down, dirty dog or whatever, all of a sudden my intent might drop to here. But that's the unconscious intent. That's the ego. That's the fight or flight thing. That's like, but if I get back, turn my brain back on, get back to looking long term, what does I really want? Wow, I don't want Phil to think I'm a low down dirty dog. There's a reason why he probably thinks that.
How'd you get there?
What I listen to? Yeah, and many times it may not even be me. It may be something I did that triggered you about something
Something in the
else,
past.
or it could be something that I
Projection.
did that I'm not aware of, because I would never intentionally do that.
So to respect you is to assume positive intent. I often say like, give me grace.
Right.
And then if there are things that kind of rub you the wrong way,
Yeah.
give you feedback.
Yeah, give me feedback. Look at me like and that's what I tell people all the time. I told my classes, I said, if you see me not living, that's one of the things I try to live what I live what I teach. Sometimes I fail.
Absolutely.
And I'm not perfect, but even that's why I love my classes, because I'm always working on myself. My friends call me the practitioner, because any problem that comes up, I look at it and I'm like, and I'll start really challenging myself on it. They're like, wow, you do the work right away. But I find that way I'm not giving my power away. I'm keeping my own power. That's for me. We give our power away to other people by blaming and everything else. What can I do to become stronger, better, more insightful, more aware? And most of us are living, there's a couple things that I tell people consistently is we're typically wrapped in a blanket of unconsciousness, or we're floating in a sea
Now
of
you're talking
unconsciousness.
about being here now, being
Yeah.
present to this moment.
Looking at all connected. And then there's skill sets that go with that help you understand this. But all of this, we're in that sea of unconsciousness. What does this mean? What does that
Default
mean?
mode
And then
network, yeah.
and our distractions and things like that. But when we wake up, then we can do something about it. But Anthony DeMello, do you know who that is? Oh my gosh! If you ever get a chance, read his books. He's got a book called awareness. And it was written in 1985. I mean, it was written after 1985, 1989, I think, something like that. But he died in 1985. And they took it from his lectures and redid it. And he was a Jesuit priest in India. And he talks about awareness. And what I love about the audio book, you can get it on Audible, is actually reading it. It seems weird because when you read when someone's lecturing, it's kind of odd. Mm-hmm. But on the Audible is his actual lectures.
Right.
So you get to hear him. He's got this great voice. He talks like, awareness.
I love Krishnamurti's lectures.
Yeah.
Another Indian.
And he says, you don't want to wake up. It's painful to wake up. It's more comfortable to be asleep.
On automatic pilot.
Yeah. You don't have to look at anything. Don't have to be responsible. I can blame. I can let all that go. It's painful. But is it worth it?
Oh,
yeah, it's worth it waking up.
It invites questioning.
Yeah.
Between stimuli and response, Viktor Frankl.
Right.
There's a space.
Right.
There's a moment when you can choose your response, your responsibility. And if you don't do that, if you don't wake up to that moment between stimuli and response, you're on automatic pilot.
It's your reaction.
You're reacting to the world instead of responding.
Yeah. You don't have choice in reaction.
No, you
in
don't.
that space, you have choice. And that's the most powerful, I think the two most powerful things on this planet are words and choices. That's it.
Yeah, words, they're magic. Mm-hmm. I heard this this quote somewhere. They're magic.
They conjure up.
That's why they call it spelling.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, you spell words. Yeah. And, I think we are boiled down awareness and influence.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how is awareness changed by whatever is around it is influencing it? Whether that's a hot stove that you touch and you burn, ouch, I'm influenced.
Right.
Whether that's a person.
Right.
We're influenced by what's around us, and our awareness, there should probably be some layer in between of discernment. How do I want to be influenced? Is this good? What do I want to let in? What do I don't want to let in? And we're talking about respect. When I think about respect personally, an act would, I've never defined it like you did. I love your definition.
Thank you.
To assume positive intent, to give grace, and then to
train me.
Well, I think in that action is tremendous courage and intimacy.
Yeah.
It is intimate to share your world and your experience with another human being. I do it with my partner all the time. We're dedicated to it. It's not always great.
Right.
Sometimes it's edgy.
It's messy.
I don't want to, it can be easy.
Yeah.
I don't want to have skin on the sweet potatoes tonight. And I'm like, well, skin's where all the nutrients are. And like, well, this is just how I am right now. And, or like it could be, I thought that girl at the gym was cute, was attractive.
Right.
It could be, or she could say that guy who was doing that fitness video, I thought he was attractive. There's this sharing of your experience that is intimate.
And vulnerable
and can be scary.
Oh, yeah. If you're completely honest with people, you will not have a life that's boring.
Yeah, I did some radical honesty stuff.
Oh yeah.
He
Book
was a
Radical
student
Honesty.
of Fritz Perl. What's his name? I forget his name. I'm not going to try to remember it. But I did some workshops on that and read up on that. And you're right. You won't have a boring life. I think it is important to share your experience.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably important to artfully, skillfully, thoughtfully deliver it.
Yes, you have to have both the awareness and the skill. Because if you don't have the skill or know what to look for, you can't expect to have people on the same level of awareness that you are. And you have to meet them where they are.
You got to meet them where
they are. You have to meet them where they are. But to do that, I have to master this. You were talking about the difference. You were talking about influence a minute ago.
Right.
And what we typically try to do in relationships is control. And we have no control in the relationship. There's only one thing I have control of in this relationship. It's on me.
That's right.
That's the only control I have. But when I control this, I can influence you. I can't influence you if I can't control this. In essence, we've got it worked around. I'm going to try to control you. I mean, and that's one of the first things they talk about in management. If you're working from a control, your people might fall in line, but when your back's turned, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
But influence, when I truly influence, I can be gone for 2 weeks and my people are getting things done as a leader. That's the difference. So if you're constantly trying to control what's going on, control this, and everything will flow from that.
Yeah. Let's share a couple examples of what respect would look like. I could think of a couple off the bat for me.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is what we both share, that like share your experience with me.
Right.
Invite intimacy. Be willing to be intimate with me.
Right.
And vulnerable and authentic, which is such a courageous act.
Right. It is.
It requires some foundation
Right.
of trust.
Right.
One thing for me is...
I'd say it can.
Yeah?
Because I think you can give trust without a foundation. You can. You can give it, and you may get hurt really quick.
Yeah.
And you are risking that. Can I give you trust up front?
Well, you'll learn.
Yeah.
If I give you trust and I get burned, I learn and I boundary.
Or also I learn, hey, Phil, you stepped over a boundary I never spoke about. Let's talk about that. Then I'm in action about it because I'm not blaming you. I'm teaching you where my boundaries are. Most of us don't know how to have that conversation. Again, it's a skill set because people will tell you all the time, go have this conversation. You need to talk to this person.
Yeah.
But if I don't know how to do it skillfully, I'm going to damage the relationship. There's no getting around it. That's part of my book, The Impossible Relationship, is because what happens in that moment is that both parties have different perspectives on things. Emotions are high, mostly explosive, but there's also just a true misunderstanding about what's going on. And when you start to break that down, you get to see that, oh my gosh, where are we? What's going on here? But here's the thing, neither party has a skill set. You put one person of the two people, one person has a skill set, you can get to a great conversation if they know how to use that skill.
Right.
Both parties don't have to know. That's why I took it on. I need to get responsible because I'm going to be doing this the rest of my life with other people. I can't expect them to do what I'm not willing to do.
Yeah. I was talking to a therapist, Sheila Murphy, and she talked about a dance. Mm-hmm. And you can have a great time dancing with a good lead.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't have to know how to dance. They'll lead in a remarkable, skillful,
great analogy.
Wonderful way.
That's a great analogy.
And you'll look good. A good lead. And
makes you look great.
Look great. And here's the thing. I've danced with a woman, and I was the lead, but she was leading from the other position, and she made me look like a great lead.
Right.
Either party can have that skillfulness and carry a beautiful expression, a beautiful interaction. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think one example of trust for me, respect for me, is when folks are willing to say no. If someone says no, I trust their yeses a lot more.
Yeah.
Say no to me.
Great insight. That's great insight. Because most of us don't want to be said no to.
Well, no oftentimes equals, the question is always, are you my friend?
Right.
Right? If you ask me a question, the thing I'm answering is, do I want him to think I'm his friend or not?
Yeah.
Instead of, do I want to have an honest, do I want him to keep me in his crew, even when I say no?
Right. The other thing I want to add on to that, yes, and I love that. And there are times when no is no forever. There are times when no is no, not now.
Right.
And distinguishing that will never work for me. There's my boundary there. Now, that's the other thing. When I say never, You may change your mind.
You
later.
never say never. Haven't you watched the Bond movies?
Exactly. Because and that's just it. There's so many things I've said, I'll never do that. And then later I'm like, wow, I do regularly.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
never say never, but for the foreseeable future, right now, I can't see myself doing that ever. But then there's this other part of not yet or not now or kind of circle back with me or, but right now I'm not feeling it. It's not right for me.
No, but I do respect that. And that's just it. To me, that's a boundary because it says nothing about me. It says about there. That's like getting upset because I taste this. I really love this. And then you taste it and I get mad at you for not liking it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have completely different taste buds. Why would I ever worry about your taste buds? If it doesn't taste good to you, I don't want you to do it.
Well, you just wanted to have a shared experience. You wanted them to have the delight that you had.
Absolutely.
And then to be in that at the same time.
And if they try it.
And that's fine.
And trust me to try it possibly. But if they don't want to, that's okay too. It means nothing about me, but we take it on as it does.
My partner, man, growing up, I did Thanksgiving, right? We would all do Thanksgiving. And we probably all have a dish that we've done. Y'all think about it right now. What dish do you do at Thanksgiving? And I've got a couple that I do, but one of them is deviled eggs.
I love deviled eggs at Thanksgiving. They're awesome. Yes.
Do you have a dish that you regularly make at Thanksgiving?
I don't bake anything. I'm not a cook.
Look at this guy.
Yeah, I'll clean all day.
Yeah.
My wife
you're
and I
a part of the program.
I'm a part of the program, and I will clean. But it's funny because my wife, why don't you ever cook? Because when she met me, she goes, I can't believe you're 55 years old and you don't cook. And it's like, no. And when she met my mom and my wife get along great. But when my wife's a strong woman.
Yeah.
My mom is a strong woman. It's interesting because my wife goes, now I see why you don't like to cook. She shoos you out of the kitchen.
She cooks everything.
And she's not letting you in. Her kitchen is her domain. So I never learned. But the thing I always have is my mom's dressing. My mom's dressing is
You know how to make
killer.
it?
Nope.
Oh, you just love eating
I just say, that's the one thing. I don't make it, but I love the deviled eggs before. That's always our appetizer.
Well, I love making deviled eggs. I've made them my whole life.
That's
and
awesome.
one time one of the first things I did with my partner was we went to this group Friendsgiving. You guys are doing Friendsgiving now. And she brought deviled eggs. And we have different ideas about deviled eggs. Just totally different. Like I need a peek on it. Like it's got to be the thickness of it and kind of the way I've got opinions.
Right.
And it looked a way that I didn't even try the deviled eggs, but I was worried.
Right.
And she noticed, and it's kind of like this underlying thing of like, you don't like my deviled eggs, and I'm like, I like you a lot.
It's nothing.
I'm just so different.
Right.
I was raised a certain way where deviled eggs are concerned.
Yeah.
That don't mean we can't still get along.
There's a great book at How We Love, and it talks about the differences with how we're raised, and when the family aspect of everyone, and it's true, opposites attract. And so typically what we celebrate at the beginning are differences. We end up beating each other up over them later instead of continuing to love and support them.
Yeah.
But we lose it when we start taking for granted that we know that person.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the things I'm learning is every single day, the person you're across from is not who they were yesterday.
You never jump into the same river twice.
No, at all.
And let your partner be a stranger. That's that beginner's mindset.
Yeah.